The bathroom door slammed shut, and the lock clicked like a judge's gavel, trapping me in a 10-foot square cage of cold tiles and flickering lights. 4 boys stood between me and the exit, their shadows stretching across the floor like wolves circling a fire. Jordan Hayes, the ringleader, leaned forward, his 6'2" frame towering, his smirk sharp enough to cut. "You really thought you could keep pretending you belong here, Eliana?" he said, his voice low, venomous, the word "here" dripping with disgust. My heart pounded, my 5'4" body tensing, but I didn't move, didn't blink. I was Eliana Torres, 17, the only Latina girl in my senior class at Naperville's Westview Academy, and I'd spent 2 years dodging their cruelty, but this wasn't a dodgeable moment. I gripped my backpack, it's 12 pounds heavy with books and secrets, knowing whatever happened next would change everything. I wasn't supposed to be here, not like this, not cornered like prey in a school that worshipped names like Hayes. But I wasn't just a name, I was a voice, and I'd been sharpening it in ways they'd never seen. It started months ago, when I first walked into Westview, a scholarship kid in a sea of privilege. Naperville, Illinois, was all manicured lawns and million-dollar homes, and Westview was its crown jewel, a private school with a $40 million campus and a reputation for churning out Ivy League stars. My mom, a single parent and nurse, worked 16-hour shifts at Edward Hospital, 3 miles away, to keep us in a cramped 900-square-foot apartment. I earned my place with straight A's and a knack for poetry, but to kids like Jordan, I was an intruder, my brown skin a challenge to their world. Jordan wasn't just popular, he was untouchable, a lacrosse captain whose father, Principal Michael Hayes, ran Westview like a family business. His blonde hair and $200 sneakers screamed money, but his eyes, cold and calculating, screamed power. He didn't just bully, he orchestrated, every move deliberate, like a chess player trapping a pawn. His crew, Evan Carter, Liam Grant, and Owen Patel, followed his lead, their loyalty bought with his charisma and their parents' connections. Evan, stocky and loud, loved to accidentally bump my locker, his 180-pound frame knocking my books to the floor. Liam, wiry and smirking, whispered "charity case" when I passed. Owen, quieter but complicit, filmed their stunts, his phone always ready to capture my humiliation. I learned to move carefully, my steps silent, my eyes scanning for traps. But I wasn't silent everywhere. In secret, I ran a poetry slam in the community center's basement, 2 miles from school, a haven where kids like me, brown, black, queer, shared truths Westview ignored. I called it Raw Words, and every Thursday, I'd slip in after dusk, my poems spilling rage and hope to a crowd of 20. My best friend, Amara Jones, a black junior with a voice like thunder, co-hosted, her laughter keeping me steady. She'd seen Jordan's taunts, urged me to fight back, but I'd say, "Not yet, Amara." Words hit harder. I also wrote for the Naperville Pulse, a community newsletter Mom distributed at the hospital, slipping anonymous essays about Westview's biases into its pages. My latest piece, The Cost of Silence, had 500 readers, some even emailing support, unaware I was the author. These were my weapons, my way of carving space in a place that wanted me invisible. Jordan's attacks weren't random, they were a campaign. It started with small jabs. A spilled 12-ounce soda on my homework, a joke about my taco truck family in the cafeteria. I reported the soda incident to Ms. Rivera, my English teacher and the only Latina on staff, but she sighed, saying, "Pick your battles, Eliana." I picked them in my poetry, my pen slicing through their cruelty. Then came the Instagram post, a photo of me at a debate meet, captioned, "Westview's token tries too hard." It spread like wildfire, kids snickering in the halls, their phones buzzing. I told the counselor, but she said there was no evidence of who posted it. Amara saw me shaking after, her 5'6" frame pulling me into a hug. "They're scared of you," she said. "Keep writing." I did, my raw words poems growing fiercer, my newsletter essays bolder. The slights piled up, each one a stone in my chest. Evan's locker, bumps, left bruises on my arm. Liam's whispers followed me to class. I ate lunch in the library, my 110-pound body hidden behind shelves, my journal full of lines like, "They think they own my silence, but I'm louder than their lies." Ms. Rivera noticed my quiet, slipping me a Frida Kahlo quote, "I am my own muse." I taped it to my phone, a reminder to keep going. My poetry slam grew, 30 kids now crowding the basement, their claps fueling me. Amara's mom, a librarian, let us use the space, her warm smile saying, "You're changing things, Eliana." I wanted to believe her, but Jordan's shadow loomed larger. He wasn't just a bully, he was a strategist, his cruelty a performance for his crew and the school. His father's influence shielded him, teachers looked away when he joked. I saw it in his eyes, he didn't just want me gone, he wanted me broken. That October afternoon, the air felt heavy, like rain waiting to fall. I was heading to my locker, my backpack dragging, when I caught Jordan watching me, his smirk sharper than usual. Evan and Liam flanked him, Owen's phone already out. It wasn't their usual taunt, this was planned, their steps matching mine as I turned toward the science wing. My pulse raced, but I thought of Amara's laugh, Ms. Rivera's quote, my poetry crowd's cheers. I'd spent 2 years swallowing their hate, but my words were my armor, my slam my stage. I didn't know they'd follow me to the bathroom, didn't know their trap was set. But as I pushed open that door, my heart whispered what my mind hadn't grasped, this wasn't just a fight, it was a war, and I'd been training for it all along. My poems, my essays, my voice, they were ready, and so was I. The bathroom's flickering light buzzed above me, a dying moth trapped in glass, as Jordan Hayes stepped closer, his 6'2" shadow swallowing the tiles. My back pressed against the cold sink, its edge biting into my hips, but I stood tall, my 5'4" frame refusing to shrink. Eliana Torres, 17, Latina, scholarship kid at Westview Academy, I was cornered, but I wasn't done. Jordan's eyes, sharp as the knives he wielded with words, locked onto mine. "You don't get it, do you?" he said, his voice smooth, like he was explaining a game he'd already won. "This school's not yours. Never will be." Evan Carter cracked his knuckles, his 180-pound bulk shifting to my left, Liam Grant smirked to my right, his wiry frame coiled, Owen Patel clutched his phone, filming, his nervous glance betraying his role as the pack's weakest link. My 12-pound backpack lay at my feet, my journal inside it, where I'd written poems for raw words, my secret poetry slam. Those words surged now, unbidden, weaving a new poem in my mind, they cage me in tiles, but my voice is a key. I wasn't just fighting for air, I was fighting for the girl I'd become, the one who'd spent 2 years at Westview dodging their hate. Jordan wasn't just a bully, he was a conductor, orchestrating cruelty with a maestro's precision. His lacrosse captain swagger hit a mind that calculated every jab, every slur, to keep kids like me in line. His father, Principal Michael Hayes, was his shield, turning a blind eye to complaints, his $150,000 salary tied to Westview's pristine image. Jordan's crew was his choir, Evan's aggression, Liam's sly taunts, Owen's silent complicity, each note amplifying his power. I'd seen it in the hallways, their whispers slicing through me, but this was different. The bathroom, 50 feet from Naperville's bustling Westview atrium, was their stage, no teachers, no cameras, just us. My heart thumped, not from fear but from clarity, like the moment before a poem lands at raw words. I thought of Amara Jones, my best friend, her thunderous voice cheering my slams, saying, "Eliana, you're a storm." I thought of Ms. Rivera, my English teacher, her Frida Kahlo quote taped to my phone, "I am my own muse." I'd trained for this, not with fists but with resilience, my brother Mateo's self-defense lessons at our community center 2 miles away echoing in my muscles. "Stay sharp, Eliana. Use their momentum." Jordan leaned in, his cologne sharp, his breath hot. "You're just a box checked for diversity," he sneered. "Think you're smart? You're nothing. Liam laughed, a high, cruel sound, and Evan stepped closer, his sneakers squeaking. Owen's phone trembled, but he kept filming, his loyalty to Jordan outweighing his doubt. My poem grew, their words are chains, but I am forged in fire. I met Jordan's gaze, my brown eyes steady. You don't know me, I said, my voice low but unshaken. He tilted his head, like a predator sizing up defiance. Oh, I know enough. Your mom's a nurse, right? Scraping by while we own this town. He mocked a sob, wiping fake tears. Evan snorted, Liam hissed, go back to your barrio. The slur hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. My mind flashed to Mom, her 16-hour shifts at Edward Hospital, her tired smile when she read my Naperville Pulse essays. She'd raised me to stand, not bow. Jordan's hand shot forward, aiming to grab my shoulder, his fingers inches from my jacket. Time slowed, my poem pulsing, I am not their shadow, I am the sun. I moved, fast and sure, my forearm deflecting his wrist, Mateo's training alive in my bones. I stepped forward, using his weight against him, and shoved. His 190-pound stumbled, crashing into the sink with a thud that rattled the pipes. Evan lunged, his bulk sloppy, roaring, you're done. I sidestepped, grabbing his sleeve and twisting, sending him into a stall door with a crack. Liam froze, his smirk gone, Owen's phone shook harder, his eyes wide. Jordan recovered, his face red, not from pain but rage. You think you can touch me? He spat, advancing again. My breath hitched, but my poem anchored me, my roots are deep, my truth a blade. I raised my hands, ready, when a voice cut through, a sharp, familiar bark. What's going on here? MS. Rivera pushed through the door, her 5'2" frame fierce, her glasses glinting. She'd been grading papers nearby, her classroom 30 feet away, and heard the crash. Jordan straightened, his charm snapping on like a mask. Just talking, Ms. R. She freaked out. Evan nodded, rubbing his arm, Liam muttered agreement. Owen lowered his phone, his face pale. Ms. Rivera's eyes narrowed, scanning me, then them. Eliana, you okay? She asked, her voice soft but steel. I nodded, my chest heaving, my poem unfinished, and still, I rise, unbroken. She turned to Jordan. All of you, to the office. Now. They hesitated, Jordan's jaw tight, but her glare, fierce as Frida's, brooked no argument. As they filed out, Jordan shot me a look, not of defeat but of war, promising this wasn't over. Ms. Rivera touched my arm, her hand warm. You did what you had to, she whispered, but her eyes held worry, knowing Westview's walls favored boys like Jordan. I grabbed my backpack, it's 12 pounds heavier with the weight of what I'd done. My hands trembled, not from fear but from power, like the rush after a raw words poem lands. I'd stood, not just for me but for every kid Westview tried to erase. Amara's words echoed, you're a storm. But storms leave wreckage, and I knew Jordan's retaliation would be fierce. Ms. Rivera walked me to the office, her steps brisk, her silence heavy. The principal's office loomed, Michael Hayes's domain, where truth often bent to privilege. I thought of my poetry slam, the 30 kids who'd clap for my truth, and my pulse essays, read by strangers who saw Naperville's cracks. I'd fought with my body, but my words were next, ready to burn brighter than Jordan's hate. As we reached the office, my poem completed itself, they locked the door, but I am the key, and my truth will open the world. For every adult who's faced a rigged system, my stand was theirs, a spark in the dark, promising a fire. The principal's office smelled of polished wood and stale coffee, a 200-square-foot fortress where truth seemed to bend under the weight of privilege. I sat in a leather chair, my 12-pound backpack at my feet, my heart still racing from the bathroom clash. Eliana Torres, 17, Latina, scholarship senior at Westview Academy, I'd fought back against Jordan Hayes and his crew, but now I faced a different battle. Principal Michael Hayes, Jordan's father, loomed behind his desk, his 6-foot frame rigid, his Yale diploma glaring from the wall. His eyes, cold as the 68-degree air, fixed on me, not with curiosity but with calculation. "Eliana, violence is a serious violation," he said, his voice clipped, ignoring my claim of self-defense. My 5'4" body tensed, my braided hair tight against my scalp, but I held his gaze, my poem from the bathroom echoing, "I am the sun, not their shadow." I deflected Jordan's grab, shoved Evan into a stall, stood my ground, but Westview's rules weren't built for girls like me. Michael declared a 5-day suspension, effective immediately, his pen scratching the form like a verdict. Jordan, Evan, and Liam faced no punishment. Owen was under review, a vague promise that felt like smoke. I wanted to scream, but my words stayed sharp, measured. "They cornered me, locked the door, used slurs," I said. "I protected myself." Michael's lips thinned. "We'll investigate, but our zero-tolerance policy is clear." His tone said the investigation was already decided, his $150,000 salary tied to protecting his son's future, not mine. Ms. Rivera, who'd walked me here, stood by the door, her 5'2" frame stiff, her glasses fogging with frustration. She'd seen Jordan's charm, heard his lie, we were just talking, but her voice, when she spoke, was cautious. "Sir, I heard the crash." Eliana was outnumbered. Michael waved her off, his hand dismissing her like a fly. "Thank you, Ms. Rivera. We'll handle it." Her eyes met mine, apologetic, torn between her job and her conscience, a Latina teacher who knew Westview's game too well. I didn't blame her, but the weight of her silence stung. As I left the office, my suspension notice crumpled in my fist, I felt the school's walls closing in, its polished floors mocking my steps. My mom, Sofia Torres, was waiting in the atrium, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled from a 16-hour shift at Edward Hospital, 3 miles away. Her 5'5" frame radiated exhaustion, but her brown eyes blazed when she saw me. "Eliana, what happened?" she asked, her voice low, fierce. I handed her the notice, my hands trembling not from fear but from rage, the kind that burned deeper than tears. She read it, her jaw tightening, then looked at me. "They did this to you?" I nodded, recounting Jordan's taunts, the locked door, my defense. Her face hardened, a mother's love sharpened into steel. "We're not letting this stand," she said, pulling out her phone. Back home, in our 900-square-foot apartment, Mom called a neighbor, Mrs. Lopez, who'd faced similar bias at her son's school. They planned a meeting with other parents, their voices rising in our 10-foot living room, plotting to demand answers. Mom clutched her grandmother's silver locket, a family heirloom she wore daily, its etched rose a symbol of resilience. "This was your bisabuela's," she said, pressing it into my hand. "She survived worse. So will we." The locket's weight grounded me, its cool metal sparking memories of Mom's stories, our family's strength through decades of struggle. I thought of my poetry slam, raw words, where I'd poured out my pain, and my Naperville Pulse essays, read by 500 strangers who saw Westview's cracks. I wasn't alone, but I felt the system's claws. At school, whispers followed me as I grabbed my books, kids staring then looking away. Jordan passed me in the hall, his 6'2" frame casual, but his smirk promised retaliation. "Enjoy your vacation, Torres," he muttered, Evan chuckling behind him. Their confidence, unshaken by my stand, was a knife in my gut. Jordan wasn't just cruel, he was Westview's golden son, his lacrosse trophies lining the atrium, his father's influence a shield no complaint could pierce. His crew fed off his power, Evan's aggression, Liam's venom, Owen's spineless filming. I reported their taunts twice before, but counselors shrugged, citing no proof. Now, proof didn't matter, Michael's verdict was law. Amara Jones, my best friend, found me at my locker, her 5'6" frame vibrating with anger. They suspended you, she said, her voice thunderous, like at our slams. Jordan's walking free. I nodded, the locket warm in my pocket. It's not over, I said, but doubt gnawed at me. Amara's eyes softened. You're a storm, Eliana. Storms don't quit. Her faith, like Mom's, was a lifeline, but Westview's bias was a wall. Then came a spark. Jasmine Kim, a Korean-American junior and student council treasurer, approached me after class, her 5'3" figure hesitant. I saw Owen's video before he deleted it, she whispered, showing me a flash drive. The grainy clip captured Jordan's slurs, my deflection, Evan's stumble, truth Michael couldn't erase. Jasmine's risk, defying Westview's cliques, was a bridge between us, her quiet courage mirroring my own. I'm tired of their crap, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I hugged her, my heart swelling, the locket pressing against my chest. Jasmine's video was a weapon, but using it meant war. Mom's parent meeting grew, 10 families now, their stories of ignored complaints echoing mine. Mrs. Lopez suggested a petition, and by evening, Amara and Jasmine launched it online, titled Justice for Eliana, collecting 200 signatures from Naperville parents and alumni. I added a pulse essay, anonymous but raw, titled Westview's Blind Spot, emailed to 1,000 subscribers. My poetry slam loomed tomorrow, and I planned a new poem, one to name Jordan's hate, to rally my 30-person crowd. But fear lingered, Michael's power, Jordan's wrath, the camera that failed in the bathroom, offline for 72 hours, a convenient glitch for a $2 million system. I sat on my bed, the locket in my hand, my poem forming, they build walls, but my roots break stone. For every adult who's faced a rigged game, my suspension was their demotion, their silenced complaint. Jasmine's flash drive, Mom's locket, Amara's fire, they were my army, and Westview's walls were starting to crack. The night Naperville's silence shattered, my phone buzzed like a hive, its screen glowing with notifications that carried my truth across the world. I was Eliana Torres, 17, Latina, a senior at Westview Academy, suspended for defending myself against Jordan Hayes and his crew in a locked bathroom. But now, Jasmine Kim's flash drive, holding the grainy video of that fight, had ignited a fire I hadn't dared imagine. Sitting on my bed, my 5'4" frame curled around my grandmother's silver locket, I watched the video hit 150,000 views on X by 9 p.m., posted by Jasmine with the hashtag Justice for Eliana. My poem from that moment, I am the sun, not their shadow, pulsed in my chest, no longer just words but a beacon. Jordan's slurs, my deflection, Evan's stumble, all captured in shaky pixels, were now a mirror held to Westview's face, and Naperville, Illinois, couldn't look away. My raw words poetry slam, usually 30 kids in a community center basement 2 miles away, had morphed into an open mic tonight, announced on Instagram after the video spread. I'd planned a new poem, one to name Jordan's hate, but I hadn't expected 200 people, students, parents, strangers, crowding the 500-square-foot space, their phone screens lighting up like stars. Amara Jones, my best friend, stood beside me, her 5'6" frame steady, her voice booming as she opened the mic. This is for Eliana, for truth. I stepped up, my locket warm against my skin, and spoke. They locked me in, called me less, but my roots break stone, my voice cut steel. The crowd roared, their claps a thunder that shook my 110-pound body, not with fear but with power. Clips of my poem hit TikTok, stitched with messages like, Westview's a lie, and, Eliana's a queen, pushing hashtag Justice for Eliana to trend nationally by midnight, 300,000 posts strong. My Naperville Pulse essay, Westview's Blind Spot, emailed to 1,000 subscribers, was shared on Facebook, its anonymous words, my words, now quoted in comments, this school buries truth, but we dig it up. For the 25 to 55-year-olds watching, my poem was their protest, my essay their op-ed, echoing fights against workplace bias or suburban gatekeeping. Naperville streets buzzed, not with its usual Starbucks runs but with outrage. My mom, Sofia Torres, stood in our 900-square-foot apartment, her nurse's scrub still on from a 16-hour shift at Edward Hospital, 3 miles away. She fielded calls from NBC Chicago, her 5'5" frame unyielding as she told a reporter, "My daughter fought for her life, and they punished her. That ends now." Her voice, steady on the 6 p.m. news, reached 50,000 viewers, her locket gleaming under studio lights. Outside Westview's 100-foot iron gates, a candlelight vigil grew, organized by Mrs. Lopez and 10 parent allies, 75 people holding candles in 38-degree air, their signs reading, "Protect our kids," and "End Westview's silence." I watched from our 10-foot porch, my breath fogging, my heart torn between awe and dread. Jordan's face, pale in the video, haunted me, not because he'd lost, but because his 6'2" shadow still loomed. He wasn't just a bully. He was Westview's heartbeat, his lacrosse trophies a shrine, his father Michael Hayes' influence a fortress. Michael, now cornered, called an emergency school board meeting, but Jordan's crew, Evan's aggression, Liam's venom, Owen's cowardice, still walked free, their smirks in the halls a taunt. I imagined Jordan plotting, his charm a mask for vengeance, his father's $150,000 salary buying time. But Naperville fought back. Jasmine, the quiet junior who'd saved the video, became a force, her 5'3" frame buzzing as she updated the petition, now at 1,500 signatures. "I'm done with their games," she told me, her Korean-American roots fueling her defiance, her student council role at stake. Amara, ever my storm, posted vigil photos on X, her captions fierce, "Westview can't hide anymore." Ms. Rivera, my English teacher, emailed me, her words careful but bold, "I'm speaking at the board meeting, Eliana. You're not alone." Her 5'2" courage, once silenced by fear, now stirred mine, her Frida Kahlo quote, "I am my own muse, alive in my resolve." The vigil's candles flickered on local news, a 20-second clip looping, and Naperville's 147,000 residents felt the heat. Alumni emailed the board, parents flooded Westview's voicemail, and a DePaul student group tweeted support, their 10,000 followers amplifying my name. The open mic became a movement, kids sharing poems about their own Westview wounds, slurs in gym, ignored reports, each verse a brick in a new wall, one built for us. I added a poem to Raw Words' Instagram, Unchained, its lines, "Their hate is heavy, but my truth flies free," shared 5,000 times. The school board meeting, held in Westview's 400-seat auditorium, was a pressure cooker, no press allowed but whispers leaking. Ms. Rivera testified, her voice cracking as she named Michael's bias, her 10 years at Westview a shield. Mrs. Lopez presented the petition, her voice steady, and a board member, a black woman named Dr. Ellis, pushed for action, her gaze fierce. By 10 p.m., the verdict landed like a gavel, Jordan, Evan, and Liam expelled, their lacrosse jerseys stripped, Owen suspended for 10 days, his phone confiscated. Michael Hayes was fired, his obstruction of justice a stain on Westview's $40 million legacy. My suspension was lifted, my record cleared, the board's email to parents a reluctant apology. I sat in our living room, mom's locket in my hand, my poem complete. They buried my light, but I burned through. For adults who faced rigged systems, the vigil was their march, the petition their vote, the expulsions their justice. But I knew Jordan's hate wasn't gone, only scattered, and Westview's roots ran deep. The open mix echo, the vigil's glow, Jasmine's flash drive, they were my army, and Naperville was waking up, its heart beating with mine. The auditorium's glow bathed my face as I gripped the podium, my 5'4" frame steady, my grandmother's silver locket warm against my navy sweater. I was Eliana Torres, 17, Latina, a senior at Westview Academy in Naperville, Illinois, no longer a suspended outcast but a voice that had cracked the school's polished facade. The 400-seat space hummed with students, parents, and teachers, their eyes holding not the cold stares of months past but a quiet awe. My poem, born in that locked bathroom where Jordan Hayes and his crew tried to silence me, pulsed in my veins, my truth flies free, unchained. I spoke into the microphone, my 110-pound body alight with purpose. I didn't fight to be famous. I fought to breathe, to claim my place. No one should pay for their humanity with pain. Applause erupted, a 30-second tide, not just for me but for every kid Westview had dimmed. The school board had erased my suspension, cleared my record, and issued a public apology, their email to 1,500 families a reluctant admission of guilt. They committed $250,000 to an anti-racism curriculum and a student equity council, changes forged by Jasmine Kim's viral video, my raw words open mic, and Naperville's candlelight vigil. But I knew promises weren't progress, we'd need to hold them accountable. Westview's halls felt different now, my 12-pound backpack no heavier than my hope. Kids who'd once passed me like a ghost now nodded, some with shame, others with respect. A sophomore, his black skin catching the light, offered a shy smile, saying, "You're dope, Eliana." I grinned, my braids loose, my heart full. Amara Jones, my best friend, leaned against my locker, her 5'6" frame radiant. "Storm girl, you did it," she said, her voice a thunderclap, like at our poetry slams. She'd shared my open mic poem on X, its 12,000 reposts fueling our new venture. A school-sanctioned Raw Words podcast, co-hosted with Jasmine, now at 18,000 downloads. We'd amplify Westview's unseen, kids like that sophomore, like us, turning scars into stories. Jasmine, the junior whose flash drive sparked the reckoning, joined us, her 5'3" frame fierce. "We're remaking this school," she said, her Korean-American grit a mirror to mine. Her student council role now led the Equity Council, her petition's 2,500 signatures a blueprint for change. Ms. Rivera, my English teacher, caught me after class, her 5'2" courage shining. "You've changed us, Eliana," she said, her glasses glinting, her Frida Kahlo quote, "I am my own muse," alive in her pride. She'd spoken against Michael Hayes, her testimony a spark that ended his rule. Michael was gone, his $150,000 job dust, his son Jordan expelled with Evan Carter and Liam Grant, their lacrosse plaques torn from the atrium. Owen Patel, back after a 10-day suspension, avoided my gaze, his silence a faint apology. Jordan's shadow lingered, his 6'2" menace not erased but scattered, a warning that hate shifts shape. My mom, Sophia Torres, wrapped me in a hug at home, her 5'5" frame warm in our 900-square-foot apartment. "You're my strength," she said, her nurse's scrubs carrying the scent of Edward Hospital's 16-hour shifts, 3 miles away. She'd rallied Naperville's parents, her locket. Our bisabuela's rose, a talisman of our fight. I launched a legacy journal project, a leather-bound book in the library where students wrote their truths, inspired by my Naperville Pulse essays, now read by 3,000 subscribers. Pages filled with stories, a South Asian boy's ignored bullying, a trans kid's quiet victories, each a thread in Westview's new tapestry. Naperville's Community Center, 2 miles away, hosted a Unity Festival I co-planned, a 5,000-square-foot celebration drawing 350 locals in 45-degree spring air, their $12 smoothie cups steaming. A 50-foot mural rose on the center's wall, my silhouette mid-poem beside Amara's fist and Jasmine's pen, its colors a vow. I spoke at the unveiling, "This isn't my story, it's ours." Cheers echoed, phones flashing, hashtag Westview Unites trending with 8,000 posts. Dar. Ellis, the black board member who'd fought for justice, stood with me, her nod a quiet triumph. She'd championed the festival, mending Naperville's 147,000 souls. I mentored freshmen through the Equity Council, pairing them with seniors, guiding a shy Latina girl to her first Raw Words poem, her voice blooming like mine had. On our 10-foot porch, I sat with Mom, the locket in my palm, Naperville's stars above. I reflected on my journey, the lessons carved into me like the rose on that silver. I learned that silence is a thief, stealing your power until you speak. I learned that allies, like Jasmine, Amara, Ms. Rivera, turn sparks into fires, but you must first stand alone. I learned that systems bend, not from rage but from truth, relentless and shared. The bathroom's lock, Jordan's slurs, Michael's bias, they tried to erase me, but I'd written myself back, with poems, petitions, a mural, a journal. My fight wasn't just for me. It was for the sophomore's smile, the freshman's poem, the parent's vigil. Victory isn't fists or fame, it's the light you leave, impossible to dim. I looked at the stars, my poem complete, I was caged, but I flew, and my wings lift others. For every adult who's faced a world that demands they shrink, my story is yours, a call to rise. If you were in a similar situation, with elements like society, racism and prejudice in schools, how would you approach it to achieve the best possible outcome? Would you speak, write, rally, or stand quietly until the moment calls? Share your truth, because one voice, like mine, can start a chorus, and Naperville's heart, like America's, beats stronger when we all sing.